Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland, with me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and happy Wednesday. Welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Now, last week's episode is something that you must listen to if you haven't yet listened to it. It is episode 11, and it's all about what you can do with awkward gaps of time in your wedding timeline. So if you're concerned that there's going to be a big chunk of time between your ceremony and your reception, or if guests are traveling from your ceremony location to a different location for your reception, what can you do to make sure that they're not just roaming around in the hotel lobby? That episode is for you because I've given some really creative ideas and also some very practical things that you can do to make sure your guests all know where to be and when. But for today's episode, this one is for those eco-friendly couples. If you are sustainability conscious, if you are trying to reduce your carbon footprint and you're trying to find creative ways in your wedding day that you can shop locally and you can save the planet, then this podcast episode is the right one for you. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few ideas of things that you can do if you want to be more eco-friendly on your wedding day. And I'm going to start with probably the most obvious one, but it's a really easy thing that you can do in life, but specifically on your wedding day. And that is to shop local. So for example, when you get your wedding cake from a local wedding cake maker. We've got amazing wedding cake makers all across Ireland who would love to make your wedding cake. You can order your flowers from a local wedding florist, or you could get married in a venue that's local to you. And now the amazing thing about that is that you would be reducing your carbon footprint because there would be less traveling from where you live to your venue. And in shopping local with suppliers who live local to your venue or who work locally to your venue, it means that they're not driving around, traveling and, using their petrol in their cars and all of that sort of thing. And another bonus by using local venues, local suppliers, local cake makers and florists and makeup artists is that you get to be supporting hardworking, independent, Irish-run businesses. And that's something amazing for the local community. So it's over and above being eco-friendly and sustainability conscious. It's boosting the local community, which is something that I'm really excited about. And so if you don't know where to start, I'm going to drop a link in the notes to our venue and supplier finders on the Weddings Online website. It's an amazing resource to help you find people who are amazing at what they do. They're in the wedding industry, they're experienced professionals, but you can look at them on a map and see where everybody is based, and you can find the ones that live and work closest to you. So now the next thing you can do, thinking of things that are local, what about your flowers? How can you find locally grown flowers? I actually enlisted the help of Judi Roche from Bala Florists, and she said that actually shopping locally is something that a lot of couples are doing these days, specifically in 2022. It is a trend, which is something I'm really excited about. Why wouldn't we get excited that people are getting on board with being eco-friendly? She mentioned silk flowers and dried flowers are also beginning to increase in popularity too, and couples are looking for more ways that they can reuse their wedding details. So for example, if you've got silk flowers, you could easily use them on your wedding day, and for something after the wedding, you could have them in your home. There's so much that you can do. This is something else that Judi says. She says there's been a big movement in the wedding and floral industry on foam-free installations and arrangements. Floral foam is extremely convenient to work with. More and more florists are trying to educate themselves on the harm that this has on the environment, and they're creating designs that are more sustainable for the planet. So thank you, Judi, for giving us some insight into that. I'll drop a link in the notes to where you can find Judi as well, because she loves shopping locally, finding locally sourced flowers that are in season, and she can help you create an eco-friendly wedding with your flowers too. So what's the next thing that you can do if you are sustainability conscious? Well, you could be thoughtful with your food and drinks. So here are some things you can think about. Where is the food sourced from? If you have a local farmer, is the food being shipped from across the world, or is it something that's being farmed locally in the area in Ireland specifically? Are the ingredients in your food organic or not? Are they less harmful to the environment? If you're choosing to have a caterer or food truck, why don't you find one that has ethics at their heart? Because then you know that you connect with them and they've got the same values that you have. We love the idea of choosing somebody who selects seasonal ingredients that are sourced locally, so there's no more shipping things from across the world. That reduces the carbon footprint as well. And here's another one. What is your caterer's plan for leftover food? Will they donate the leftover food to a homeless shelter or to a local charity, or does everything just get binned and thrown away? It's definitely worth considering when you choose your caterer. Now, here's something you can consider. If you want to be eco-friendly, you're a sustainability conscious couple, what do you do with all your supplies? There's so many things that you need. Think about crockery, think about cutlery, glassware. There's all the decor items, there's tables and chairs, and there's so much that you need to buy. We think it's a great idea if you can hire as much as possible. So there are obvious things to hire, such as your tables and chairs. You can also hire linens. You can hire your cutlery and crockery and glassware as well, which means you don't have to buy all those items and then try and figure out what to do with them afterwards. So getting to reuse something is an amazing way of being aware of your carbon footprint and all the different ways that you can be conscious of the items that you make use of. Here's another idea. What about going paper free? So I know that we have amazing wedding invitations that you want to hand out to people, you want to post them, but you could either have a sustainability conscious paper material, something like seed paper that your guests can plant after they've received them, which is an amazing idea. And we'll talk more about seed paper a little bit later on as well. But you could also go entirely paper-free. So on your wedding day, that would mean instead of having, menus that are printed and displayed on the tables, you can have a big chalkboard that lists the menu. There are other ways that you can make sure that you don't have paper materials on the wedding day. And before that, you could also have digital wedding invitations instead of printing them. You can still make them look amazing by having a stationery supplier who designs everything for you and makes it look cohesive, especially if you don't know anything about graphic design. It's really helpful to have the help of a wedding stationery designer who can piece together your wedding look, and they can create something for you, and then you can email it out and you can digitally share your invitation with your guests. I think that's a pretty fun idea. Now, I have heard of suppliers who create wedding invitations that can double up as something else. So, for example, if your invitation has a really pretty design on the back of it, your guests can display that in their home instead of taking your wedding invitation, looking at the key details, and then throwing it in the bin. Think about that. So now thinking about sustainable supplies, I have a little list of some eco-friendly confetti ideas for you. So instead of doing things like, actual paper confetti, what about dried flowers? So I know Judi Roche mentioned this, which we spoke about earlier. I actually attended a wedding a few weeks ago where the groom had given the bride a bouquet of flowers every week for their year-long engagement. And what they did was they actually held on to those flowers and dried them and used them as confetti. So it had a special meaning behind it, but it was also eco-friendly and really pretty, and it smelled amazing as well. I mentioned seed paper earlier. You can use that for confetti. You can cut it into little shapes. There's bird seed, because why wouldn't you want to feed the birds on your wedding day? How about lavender? It smells amazing and it looks amazing, and it works really well if you've got tones of purple in your wedding color scheme. You could have leaves or leaf cutouts. So kind of like what you would do with seed paper, you can get a punch that has different shapes like hearts or butterflies or stars or something like that. You could have fragrant herbs, rosemary, thyme, those types of things. You could have fresh petals or bubbles. Next thing that you could do if you are eco-friendly and sustainability conscious is you can reuse and recycle. Now think about things that you've got in your home already before you purchase or hire other things. For example, do you need to hire vases for your flowers if you already have a whole bunch of vases and glass jars at home? Things like bunting and some of those special touches that you add to your decor. Do you have anything at home that you can use? Now, when you make a purchase, you might want to think about if you can use some of your wedding items in your home afterwards. So maybe you don't have any vases and you purchase some for the wedding day, knowing that you'll be able to reuse them in your home afterwards. Now, what on earth are you going to do with all your items that you buy that you don't have a reason to keep in your home? Because of course, minimalism is also a thing and you don't want to fill your house with a bunch of stuff that you don't need. I've got the perfect solution for you. So if you buy anything for your wedding day, so we're talking decor items or your wedding dress or your shoes, or maybe you've bought like a really lovely tiara or headpiece to wear, anything that you buy for your wedding day that you know you're not going to use again, you could sell. We actually have an amazing Facebook group for all pre-loved wedding items. And so I'll drop a little link in the notes for this, because you may want to actually buy things that have been pre-loved and used already, and you can use them in your own wedding day. Or you can buy new things, and when you're finished, you can sell them in the group so other couples can reuse them on their wedding day. And now the final thing that I want to suggest is to be creative with your gifts and favors. There is nothing worse and nothing more disheartening than spending your time and your energy and your money buying gifts for people only to see them end up in the bin or just left behind on the wedding day. And you would be surprised at how often that actually happens. So you could consider donating to charity in the name of your guests. We've seen loads of couples do that. Or you could give them some eco-friendly wedding favors like wildflower seeds. You could give succulents or edible treats that they can actually enjoy on the day or on their way home. Another option is to give them reusable items, so anything that they would actually make use of, like a coaster or a tea towel, just something that guests will take home and actually use. So I'm going to give you a little recap of some of the ideas that we've shared today for sustainability conscious couples who want to save the planet. The first one was shop local. Next is consider your locally grown and seasonal flowers, and thanks to Judi Roche for giving her expertise on that. How about being thoughtful with food and drinks, making sure that there aren't leftovers and that things are locally and reasonably sourced. Consider your sustainable supplies. Hire as much as you can. We shared a list of confetti ideas too, ways to reuse and recycle, and don't forget, I'm going to drop a link in the comments on where you can buy and sell pre-loved wedding items. And then we spoke about gifts and favors. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. A special shout out to this week's wedding planning expert, Judi Roche of Bala Florists. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.